Hi everybody, Miss Laura here. Today I wanted to read a book with you, but instead of reading a short book, I thought we'd read a chapter book. And today it's Beverly Cleary's 104th birthday, so I thought we would read Beezus and Ramona, which is a story about a 4-year-old and her 9-year-old sister. Chapter 1, Beezus and her little sister. Beatrice Quimby's biggest problem was her little sister Ramona. Beatrice, or Beezus as everyone called her, because that's what Ramona called her when she was first learned to talk, knew other 9-year-old girls who had little sisters who went to nursery school. That's kind of like pre-K. But she didn't know anyone with a little sister like Ramona. Beezus felt that the biggest trouble with 4-year-old Ramona was that she was just plain exasperating. That means she's really frustrating. If Ramona drank lemonade through a straw, she blew into the straw as hard as she could to see what would happen. If she played with her finger paints in the yard, she wiped her hands on the cats. That was the exasperating sort of thing Ramona did. And then there was the way she behaved about her favorite book. It all began one afternoon after school when Beezus was sitting in her father's big chair embroidering, that means sewing, a laughing tea kettle on a pot holder for one of her aunts for Christmas. She was trying to embroider this one neatly because she planned to give it to Aunt Beatrice, who was Mother's younger sister and Beezus's most special aunt. With gray thread, Beezus carefully outlined the steam coming from the tea kettle spout and thought her pretty young aunt, who was always so happy and so understanding. No wonder she was Mother's favorite sister. Beezus hoped to be exactly like Aunt Beatrice when she grew up. She wanted to be a 4th grade teacher and drive a yellow convertible and live in an apartment house with an elevator and a buzzer that opened the front door. Because she was named after her Aunt Beatrice, Beezus felt she might be like her in other ways too. While Beezus was sewing, Ramona, holding a mouth organ in her teeth, was riding around the living room on her tricycle. Since she needed both hands to steer the tricycle, she could blow in and out on only one note. This made the harmonica sound as if we were groaning, oh dear, over and over again. Beezus tried to pay no attention. She tied a small knot at the end of the piece of red thread to embroider the tea kettle's laughing mouth. Conceal a knot as you would a secret, Grandmother had always said. Inhaling and exhaling into her mouth organ, Ramona closed her eyes and tried to pedal around the coffee table without looking. Ramona! Cried Beezus. Watch where you're going! When Ramona crashed into the coffee table, she opened her eyes again. Oh dear, moaned the harmonica. Around and around pedaled Ramona, inhaling and exhaling. Beezus looked up from her pot holder. Ramona, why don't you play with Bendix for a while? Bendix was Ramona's favorite doll. Ramona thought Bendix was the most beautiful name in the world. Ramona took the harmonica out of her mouth. No, read my Scoopy book to me. Oh, Ramona, not Scoopy. We've read Scoopy so many times, protested Beezus. Instead of answering, Ramona put her harmonica back in her mouth and pedaled around the room, inhaling and exhaling. Beezus had to lift her feet every time Ramona rode by. The knot in Beezus's thread pulled through the material of her pot holder, and she gave up trying to conceal it as she would a secret and just tied a bigger knot. Finally, tired of trying to keep her feet out of Ramona's way, she put down her embroidery. All right, Ramona, she said. If I read about Scoopy, will you stop riding your tricycle around the living room and making so much noise? Yes, said Ramona, as she climbed off her tricycle. She ran into the bedroom she shared with Beezus and returned with a battered, dog-eared, sticky book, which she handed to Beezus. Then she climbed into the big chair beside Beezus and waited expectantly. Reflecting that Ramona always managed to get her own way, Beezus gingerly took the book and looked at it with a feeling of great dislike. It was called The Littlest Steam Shovel. On the cover was a picture of a steam shovel with big tears coming out of its eyes. How could a steam shovel have eyes, Beezus thought, and scarcely looking at the words, began for what seemed like the 100th or maybe the 1000th time. Once there was a little steam shovel named Scoopy. One day Scoopy said, I do not want to be a steam shovel. I want to be a bulldozer. You skipped, interrupted Ramona. No, I didn't, said Beezus. Yes, you did, insisted Ramona. You're supposed to say, I want to be a big bulldozer. Oh, all right, said Beezus crossly. I want to be a big bulldozer. Ramona smiled contentedly, and Beezus continued reading. Grrr, said Scoopy, doing his best to sound like a bulldozer. Beezus read on through Scoopy's failure to be a bulldozer. She read about Scoopy's wanting to be a trolley bus. Beep, beep, honked Ramona. A locomotive. Woo, woo, wailed Ramona. And a pile driver. Clunk, clunk, shouted Ramona. Beezus was glad when she finally reached the end of the story, and Scoopy learned it was best for little steam shovels to be steam shovels. There, she said with relief, and closed the book. She always felt foolish trying to make noises like machinery. Clunk, clunk, yelled Ramona, jumping down from the chair. She pulled her harmonica out of her pocket of her overalls and climbed onto her tricycle. Oh dear, she inhaled and exhaled. Ramona, you promised you'd stop if I read Scoopy to you. I did stop, said Ramona when she had taken the harmonica out of her mouth. Now read it again. Ramona Geraldine Quimby. Beezus began and stopped. It was useless to argue with Ramona. She wouldn't pay any attention. Why do you like that story anyway? Beezus asked. Steam shovels can't talk, and I feel silly trying to make all those noises. I don't, said Ramona and wailed, hoo, hoo, with great feeling before she put her harmonica back in her mouth. Beezus watched her little sister pedal furiously around the living room, inhaling and exhaling. Why did she have to like a book about steam shovels anyways? Girls weren't supposed to like machinery. Why couldn't she like something quiet like Peter Rabbit? Mother, who had brought the littlest steam shovel at the supermarket to keep Ramona quiet while she shopped one afternoon, was so tired of Scoopy that she always managed to be too busy to read to Ramona. Father came right out and said he was fed up with the frustrated steam shovels and would not read the book to Ramona, and furthermore, no one else would read it to her while he was in the house, and that was that. So only Beezus was left to read Scoopy to Ramona. Plainly, something had to be done, and it was up to Beezus to do it. But what? Arguing with Ramona was a waste of time, so was appealing to her better nature. The best thing to do with Ramona, Beezus had learned, was to think up something to take the place of whatever her mind was fixed upon. And what could take the place of the little steam shovel? Another book, of course, a better book. And the place to find it was certainly the library. Ramona, how would you like me to take you to the library to find a different book? She really enjoyed taking Ramona places, which of course was quite different from wanting to go someplace with her and having Ramona insist on tagging along. For a moment, Ramona was undecided. Plainly, she was torn between wanting the little steam shovel read aloud again and the pleasure of going out with Beezus. Okay, she agreed at last. Go get your sweater while I tell Mother, said Beezus. Clunk, clunk, shouted Ramona happily. When Ramona appeared with her sweater, Beezus stared at her in dismay. Oh no, she thought, she can't wear those to the library. On top of Ramona's head were a circle of cardboard with 2 long paper ears attached. The insides of the ears were colored with pink crayon, Ramona's work at nursery school. I'm the Easter Bunny, announced Ramona. Mother, wailed Beezus, you aren't going to let her wear those awful ears to the library, are you? Why, I suppose I don't see why not, Mother said, which surprised Beezus. They look so silly. Whoever heard of an Easter bunny in September? Beezus complained as Ramona hopped up and down to make her ears flopped. I just hope we don't meet anyone we know, Beezus thought as they started out the front door. But the girls had no sooner left the house when they saw Mrs. Whizzer, a lady who lived in the next block, coming toward them with a friend. It was too late to turn back. Mrs. Whizzer had seen them and was waving. Why, hello there, Beatrice. I see you have a dear little bunny with you today. Yes, Beezus said. Ramona obligingly hopped up and down to make her ears flop. Mrs. Whizzer said to her friend, as if Beezus and Ramona couldn't hear, Isn't she adorable? Both children knew whom Mrs. Whizzer had been talking about. If she'd been out talking about Beezus, she would have said something quite different. Such a nice girl, a sweet child, adorable never, though. Just look at those eyes, said Mrs. Whizzer. Ramona beamed. She knew whose eyes they were talking about, too. Beezus did as well, but she didn't care. Mother said blue eyes were just as pretty as brown. Mrs. Whizzer leaned over to Ramona. What color are your eyes, sweetheart? She asked. Brown and white, said Ramona promptly. Brown and white eyes, exclaimed the friend. Isn't that cunning? Beezus had thought it was cunning the first time she heard Ramona say it too, but that was about a year ago. Since then, she'd given up trying to explain to Ramona that she wasn't supposed to say she had brown and white eyes, because Ramona always answers, my eyes are brown and white. And Beezus had to admit, in a way, they were. And what is the little bunny's name? Asked Mrs. Whizzer's friend. My name is Ramona Geraldine Quimby, answered Ramona, and then she added generously, my sister's name is Beezus. Beezus, exclaimed the lady. What an odd name. Is it French? Oh no, said Beezus, wishing, as she often did, that she had a more common nickname like Betty or Patsy. She explained as quickly as she could how she happened to be called Beezus. Ramona did not like to lose the attention of her audience. She hitched up the leg of her overalls and raised her knee. "See my scab?" she said proudly. "I fell down and hurt my knee, and oh, it bled and bled." "Ramona!" Beezus was horrified. "You aren't supposed to show people your scabs." "Why?" asked Ramona. That was one of the most exasperating things about Ramona. She never seemed to understand what she was not supposed to do. "Oh, it's a very nice scab," said Mrs. Wizard's friend, but she did not look as if she really thought it was nice. "Well, we must be going," said Mrs. Wizard. As for Ramona, she was perfectly happy. She had 3 people to read aloud a book she liked, and she spent much of her time covering sheets of paper with I's and T's. Sometimes she wrote in pencil, sometimes she wrote in crayon, sometimes she wrote in marker. Finally, to the relief of the rest of the family, the day came when Big Steve had to be returned. "Come on, Ramona," said Beezus. "It's time to go to the library for another book." "But I have a book," said Ramona, who was lying on her stomach writing her version of her name on a piece of paper with a purple crayon. "No, it belongs to the library," Beezus explained, glad that for once Ramona possibly could not get her way. "It's my book," said Ramona, crossing several T's with a flourish. "Beezus is right, dear," observed Mother. "Run along and go get Big Steve." Ramona looked sulky, but she went into the bedroom, and in a few minutes she appeared with Big Steve in her hand and a satisfied expression on her face. "It's my book," she announced. "I wrote my name in it." Mother looked alarmed. "What do you mean, Ramona? Let me see." She took the book and opened it. Every page in the book was covered with enormous purple I's and T's in Ramona's very best handwriting. "Mother," cried Beezus, "look what she's done, and in crayon so it won't erase." "Ramona Quimby," said Mother, "you're a very naughty girl. Why did you do a thing like that?" "It's my book," said Ramona stubbornly. "I like it." "Mother, what am I going to do?" Beezus demanded. "It's checked out on my card and I'm responsible. They won't let me take any more books out of the library and I won't have anything to read and it'll all be Ramona's fault. She's always spoiling my fun and it's not fair." Beezus didn't know what she would do without her library card. She couldn't get along without library books. She couldn't. That was all. "I do not spoil your fun," stormed Ramona. "You have all the fun. I can't read and it isn't fair." Ramona's words ended in a howl as she buried her face in her mother's skirt. "I couldn't read when I was your age, and I didn't have someone to read to me all the time, so it is too fair," argued Beezus. "You always get your own way because you're the youngest." "I do not," shouted Ramona, "and you don't read to me all the time. You're mean." "I am not mean," Beezus shouted back. "Children," cried Mother. "Stop it, both of you." "Ramona, you are a very naughty girl." A loud sniff came from Ramona. "And Beezus," her mother continued, "the library won't take your card away from you. If you go get my purse, I'll give you some money to pay for the damage to the book. Take Ramona along and explain what happened, and the librarian will tell you how much to pay." This made Beezus feel better. Ramona sulked all the way to the library, but when they got there, Beezus was pleased to see that Miss Evans, the children's librarian, was sitting behind the desk. Miss Evans was the kind of librarian who understands about little sisters. "Hello, Beatrice," said Miss Evans. "Is this the little sister I've heard so much about?" Beezus wondered what Miss Evans had heard about Ramona. "Yes, this is Ramona," she said, and went on hesitantly. "And Miss Evans, "I'm a bad girl," interrupted Ramona, smiling winningly at the librarian. "Oh, you are?" said Miss Evans. "What did you do?" "I wrote in a book," said Ramona, not the least bit ashamed. "I wrote in purple crayon and it'll never ever erase. Never ever ever ever." Embarrassed, Beezus handed Miss Evans Big Steve the steam shovel. "My mother gave me the money to pay for the damage," she explained. The librarian turned the pages of the book. "Well, you didn't miss a page, did you?" she finally said to Ramona. "No," said Ramona, pleased with herself. "And it'll never, ever, ever—" "I'm awfully sorry," interrupted Beezus. "After this, I'll try to keep our library books where she can't reach them." Miss Evans consulted a file of little cards in her drawer. "Since every page in the book was damaged and the library can no longer use it, I'll have to ask you to pay for the whole book. I'm sorry, but that's the rule. It'll cost $2.50. Oh, $2.50. What a lot of things I would have bought," Beezus reflected as she pulled 3 folded dollar bills out of her pocket and handed them to the librarian. Miss Evans put the money in a drawer and gave Beezus 50 cents in change. Then Miss Evans took a rubber stamp and stamped something inside the book. By twisting her head around, Beezus could see that the word said "discarded." "There," Miss Evans said. "You have paid for it, so now it's yours." Beezus stared at the library. "You mean to keep?" "That's right," answered Miss Evans. Ramona grabbed the book. "It's mine, it's mine. I told you it was mine." Then she turned to Beezus and said triumphantly, "You said people don't buy books at the library, and now you just bought one." Buying a book and paying for damage are not the same thing, Miss Evans pointed out to Ramona. Beezus could see that Ramona didn't care. The book was hers, wasn't it? It was paid for and she could keep it. And that's not fair, thought Beezus. Ramona shouldn't get her own way when she had been naughty. But Miss Evans, protested Beezus, if she spoils a book, she shouldn't get to keep it. Now every time she finds a book she likes, she will... Beezus did not go on. She knew very well what Ramona would do, but she wasn't going to say it out loud in front of her. I see what you mean. Miss Evans looked thoughtful. Give me the book, Ramona, she said. Doubtfully, Ramona handed her the book. Ramona, do you have a library card? Miss Evans asked. Ramona shook her head. Then Beezus must have taken the book out on her card. So the book belongs to Beezus. Of course, why hadn't she thought of that before? It was her book, not Ramona's. Oh, thank you, said Beezus gratefully, as Miss Evans handed the book to her. She could do anything she wanted with it. For once Ramona didn't know what to say. She scowled and looked as if she were building up to a tantrum. You've got to read it to me, she said at last. Not unless I feel like it, said Beezus. After all, it's my book. She couldn't resist adding, That's not fair. Ramona looked as if she were about to howl. It is too fair, said Beezus calmly, and if you have a tantrum, I won't read it to you at all. Suddenly, as if she had decided Beezus meant what she said, Ramona stopped scowling. Okay, she said cheerfully. Beezus watched her carefully for a minute. Yes, she really was being agreeable, thought Beezus with a great feeling of relief. And now that she did not have to read Big Steve unless she wanted to, Beezus felt she would not mind reading it once in a while. Come on, Ramona, she said. Maybe I'll have time to read to you before Father comes home. Okay, said Ramona happily as she took Beezus's hand. Miss Evans smiled at the girls as they started to leave. Good luck, Beatrice, she said.